This here is a redneck wallaby, a member of the Marsupials. These redneck wallabies have colonised areas of woodland and grassland in the Isle of Man after escaping from the island's wildlife park in the 1970s. Marsupials are one of 3 subdivisions of the class Mammalia extant today. Marsupials alive today are only found in Australia and the Americas. There are currently 11 recognised orders of marsupials. 8 orders are found today in Australia and 2 in Americas. Overall, 100 species live in the Americas in comparison to 239 on the Australian continent. Notable characteristics which help identify marsupials include a pouch, which is known as the marsupium, in which they nurture their young, although this is not present in all marsupials, their reproductive systems, the way they reproduce, and the dentition and skull morphology.
Both marsupials and placentals share common Eutherian ancestors, such as Multituberculata, Trichontodonta, and Symmetrodonta, who are all descendants of the Jurassic Eupanthotherus. Studies undertaken by Sharman in 1965 looked at differentiation of late Cretaceous marsupials and placental reproductive systems, which help biologists discern when marsupials diverged, thus discerning when they shared a common ancestor. Sinadelphes cellae is the oldest fossil discovered that has the characteristic marsupial dental formula, which includes 5 upper and 4 lower incisors, canine, 3 premolars, and 4 molars. Found in Liaoning, northern province of China in 2003, it dates back to 125 million years ago to the early Cretaceous period. In the same era, dating back to a similar time of the first marsupial, the oldest fossil record of a placental was found in Umea Scansauria, which suggests that the marsupials and placentals first diverged from Eutherian ancestors in Asia and radiated out from there.
Australian marsupials share many affinities with South American marsupials and extinct Antarctic forms, showing a southern migration route. Most paleontologists agree that Metatheria originated in Asia, diversified throughout the northern continents, and dispersed into Gondwana, which is shown in the map. They then moved through Antarctica to Australia before the Australian continent was isolated. It is likely that all of the kangaroos, wombats and wallabies are descendants of one marsupial species that came from Antarctica about 55 million years ago. The giant marsupials of Australia, Tasmania and New Zealand went extinct after the last ice age and was survived by smaller descendants. Fossils of placental teeth have been found in Australia, showing that both groups had lived in Australia, but marsupials had outcompeted them. The structure and behaviour of marsupial and placental mammals can be very similar due to convergent evolution, as shown in the picture. Some have evolved structurally similar, such as the mole and the marsupial mole, which are both adapted to burrow efficiently. Others have evolved similar habits due to occupying the same niche. For example, kangaroos fill the same ecological role as the deer and antelope. Adaptation is greatly varied throughout the taxa. The burrowing species, such as marsupial moles and the wombats, have strong foreclaws, which enables them to burrow into the ground for food and shelter. Kangaroos and wallabies have very strong and well-developed hind limbs that can provide formidable weapons and is a mean of quick movement. Gliders have a membrane along their flank attached to the forelegs and hind legs. This enables them to glide from high perches. The diets of marsupials have also evolved differently between species, dependent on their structure and habitat. Dunnarts are very active and therefore must eat their body weight each day in order to supply their high energy needs. The numbats have sharp claws that expose termites and ants in the soil. They also have a long thin tongue covered in sticky saliva that allows them to pick up the insects, as you can see in the picture. Many Australian possums and American opossums have a mixed diet of plants and insects. Wombats and many other marsupials are strictly vegetarian. Some marsupials, such as the honey possum, feed on the nectar of flowers and therefore serve as important pollinators.
Once marsupials diverged, they became a sister taxon to placentals. Many marsupials fill similar niches of placentals, therefore much of the marsupial anatomy is similar. When marsupials first diverged from the eutherian taxa, they both had very similar dental structure. However, as marsupials diverged and radiated into more ecological niches, the dental structure started to show subtle differences. The original dental formula, which was first seen in the first marsupial fossil, can be seen in possums. However, most marsupials have greatly reduced amount of teeth. Epipubic bones are two spurs projecting anteriorly from the pelvic girdle into the abdominal region. Placentals have evolved with the loss of the epipubic bone, which has led many biologists to believe that it is to help support the characteristic marsupial pouch. A more recent study has revealed that there are tendons that stretch from the femur to the epipubic bone, meaning it is to help with the locomotion and suspension of the litter mass of several attached altricial young. The loss of the epipubic bone in eutherians can be related to the evolution of prolonged internal gestation. The female reproductive system consists of two ovaries, each with a cortex containing oocytes, leading into two oviducts, which leads to two uteri with separate cervixes, which both lead down to a single anterior vaginal expansion, where it splits into three parts, called the pseudovagina. It then rejoins to a single urogenital opening, called the cloaca. The major difference in vaginal morphology from placentals comes from a difference in embryonic development. A major difference in morphology in the male marsupial reproductive organs is the scrotum is held in front of the penis rather than behind. The anatomy of the sperm is much the same as placentals, the only difference being the acrosome is flattened on one side instead of it being wrapped around the apical region. In most marsupials, the penis is split into two halves. This is believed to help the sperm enter the two lateral vaginas of the marsupial female, though this is not certain, as some species have secondarily lost this feature, such as red kangaroos and marsupial moles. In most South American marsupials, the sperm is released singly, but pair up in the female. The advantage of this is hypothesized that it may aid directional sperm movement in certain circumstances. The paired sperm later separates so that only one sperm fertilizes an egg.
The period of intrauterine development in marsupials ranges from about 12 days in the bilby to 38 days in the swamp wallaby. The young are born in a vulnerable embryonic condition and make their own way to the shelter, warmth and nourishment of the pouch. In pouchless marsupials, they cling to the teats. The young in this condition continue their development for weeks or months, after which they are weaned and begin to look after themselves. Interestingly, the Tamar wallaby is one of the smaller species within the genus Macropus, which includes 14 species of kangaroos and wallabies, of which all but one species have the ability to halt the development of an embryo. This is called embryonic dyspause. Tamar wallabies' embryos in embryonic dyspause can be reactivated during the breeding season, which is January to April. Up to 3 days before birth, the fetal forelimbs are well developed, whereas the hind limbs are still only buds. In placental mammals, these movements occur much later during development. The development of young marsupials seems to be very quick and efficient. They travel unaided by their mother from the birth canal to the pouch, where they attach themselves, showing that the locomotor system of the young is sufficiently well developed and the sensory system is mature enough to enable it to find the pouch and locate its heat. The young are also able to breathe, so the lung must be sufficiently mature to allow gas exchange. There are substantial differences of development between different species, which relate to taxonomic position and body position. This table shows the stages of development of 6 species of marsupial. The second image shows limb development in a Tamar wallaby.
In Australia, marsupials are very diverse and are the dominant native mammals. The red kangaroo is the largest marsupial, standing up to 2 meters tall. At a full speed, the red kangaroo can reach speeds of 40 miles per hour. The joey of a koala lives in the mother's pouch for 6 to 7 months until it can tolerate toxic gum leaves. The joey transitions from a diet of milk to a diet of pap before it can digest gum leaves. Pap is a specialised form of feces which provides the joey with essential proteins and bacteria. Possums are nocturnal marsupials. There are 23 species in Australia, ranging from the pygmy possum, which only weighs 10 grams and grows to a length of 70 millimeters, to the bush-tailed possum, which can weigh up to 10 kilograms and grow up to a meter in length. The Tasmanian devil gets its name from its unsettling screeches and sometimes aggressive feeding behaviour. The Tasmanian devil is the largest of the marsupial carnivores. The Tasmanian devil is capable of hunting small prey such as birds and snakes, however scavenging is a speciality with an acute sense of smell. Wombats dig burrow systems with their front teeth and powerful claws. Wombats spend most of the day in their burrows and emerge at night to feed on grasses, bark and roots. Wombats have a backwards facing pouch to prevent unwanted solids entering the pouch during digging. Marsupials of the Americas. Opossums are the only native marsupials to the Americas. Opossums have 50 teeth, which is more than any other North American land mammal. Shrew opossums are one of several marsupials not to have a pouch. Shrew opossums are active hunters of small vertebrates.